And that's
Hello,
pretty
hello,
much when I
hello.
found out that I had
Give
3
me-
testicles.
Oh shit!
Pretty
I
much.
broadcasted that.
Are we live?
Let me increase your audio levels a little bit.
It turns out you only need 2.
I
Testicles.
think you only need 1 if your goal is procreation. If
Is
if
that
that's
true?
not your goal,
I always wondered, does that mean that those little guys have to work harder, or is that it's just like, oh no, we don't use that side of the road anymore? I really don't know how it works.
As
I'm
in,
you have a
45, and I don't understand what happens when a guy.
you
gets
made a
vasectomy.
baby though.
You must
How
know
do you
elements
not know
of the
this?
process. Sure.
Why do you have 2 instead
Is it a
of
backup?
just
is it like
one?
Contingency.
large
it's a
one?
it's a wingman?
Oh.
Same reason you got 2 lungs, 2 lots
I
of
was
things.
to say 2 kidneys. Yeah.
This is why I think that Americans
Krogans have 4 hearts.
That's
kind of
right.
like
Very good.
there was
Klingons
a
have 2 in a
huge
ribcage.
there was a huge, this is science. There was a huge boom in the Americas, and the UK kind of stayed at a even keel as far as their level of procreation,
Generally what we
because
do,
the 2 testicles were like, after you, no, after you, please, no, after you, no, after you, no, please, after you, no, after you. And then the Canadians started to drop off because they were even worse, and Americans were like, get the fuck out of my way, and they just blows past you.
What about
Sorry, go
India?
ahead. No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, here we are, everyone. Hi.
Oh.
I managed to offend. We're live too. You can't
We
edit that out.
sure are. I wouldn't edit it out anyway by choice.
that's
We're keeping
us.
all that in. So, hi everyone. Welcome to episode 60 of Play, Watch, Listen.
Not you,
Wow.
Tim. Tim,
Yeah, except for
everybody
you.
but you.
Just get
Fuck
him
you,
out of
Tim.
there. There is actually not a Tim in the chat. We're okay. We don't have
Not,
anyone
you,
to
not
apologize to.
anymore.
That
You're
I can
goddamn
see.
right. There's not.
Very obedient. For anyone who's watching live, I will take this down after it's live.
For anyone who's watching dead, we miss you.
Yeah.
I will take this down.
I have a 3-year-old
I'm
son.
being very respectful.
I will
Problem
audio
child.
mix it. I will
Problem
put it up on
child.
Friday. I can't change anyone's audio, so if the audio is all different, there's nothing I can do about that. Spamming it in chat will unfortunately not be able to change anything.
Clearly, you can't do anything about my audio.
No, I can't do anything about you in general, Troy. He's a free agent. He does what he wants.
Unsolvable.
So if you do see people complaining about the audio levels as they join the live stream, please just tell them. There's nothing we can do about
Or
it.
just let them be upset and learn how
Let
to
them
cope.
live their lives. Like if that's
Yeah.
bringing them joy, if that's how they extract pleasure from the
Kind
show,
of.
is to criticize the microphone levels, then I'm all for it.
I
They're
don't think there's
almost-
a lot of people that do, though. I don't think there's a lot of people.
If they are, they're from my camp. That's for sure.
I would say a lot. Yeah. No,
No,
your
that's
audio. Yeah,
No, I'm saying my tribe of audio people who are going to come and be like, "What microphone is that?"
I don't think
This
that's
is not
true. I
suitable.
think
That
audio
is-
people know how Zoom levels work.
Not only that, but also
Fair
you.
enough. But we're terrible at getting it right.
You are the one guy's like, I don't know, it's a mic, man. I don't know, it's a pre. I'm the gearhead, which is also.
So you are
I
much
agree
more of
with
a
that,
gearhead
yeah.
than me.
But that's why it's all the more ironic when my audio doesn't work.
It's
Your
true. Your
audio is
setup
generally
is
the
kind
best,
of
though.
bursting under its own weight.
Mm.
Like, Troy, your audio generally doesn't require any editing at all. Mike's.
God love him.
Oh,
I have a creative vision for how this audio works, and I would really appreciate everyone on the call respected that.
Oh, I respect it.
but in relation to people
Yes.
talking about, people
you
jumping in
dare.
the chat and complaining about audio. I'm not segueing
you-
into anything that's important. Don't worry. Where do you think backseat gaming comes from? Like if I'm streaming and someone's like, do this, do this, do this. This doesn't generally annoy me. I know a lot of people get very annoyed by it. Where do you think that mindset comes from? Because like I'm usually like, hey, I want to figure it out myself, so I'm just not going to read this. But it doesn't piss me off. Like some streamers get very annoyed about that. People who spam messages on the internet about telling you how to fix things. Where do you think that comes from in their personality? Because I would never do that.
I'll go last.
I can tell you, for me, it is really. It tests my patience to watch someone struggle when I know how to help them, even if they are like, "Let me figure it out." There's a certain element of the personality that's just like, but
Yeah.
I know, and because it's no different than if you're in the car with somebody and you're like, "The turn's coming, the turn's coming, the turn. You should start signaling. The turn is coming. It's upon
Sure.
us. This is the moment." Like I have a hard time. Like it takes a lot of discipline to not be a very annoying.
So anyone who drives you
compatriot.
anywhere is panicked the whole time because that's your commentary the entire time.
I think that's a very philanthropic view. Like that's the
That's
better
so
angels.
generous to yeah.
But no, I think it's a generous way of looking. I think it's because there's a lot in this world that the perception is we don't have much control over. Top down would be death, government, whatever. You can like list
Taxes, death and taxes, and then
but
everything else from there we have control over.
Epictetus would disagree, but I think that.
Well, come at me, bro.
Bro, 2 columns, column A, column B, my thoughts, and my choices. Those are the 2 things that I can control. Everything else falls in the way. And if I sounded like Jeff Goldblum just then, didn't I? Two columns, of course. Column A, column B. Oh my God in heaven.
Austin, can you do musical accompaniment to this impression, please?
What is Jeff Goldblum?
We get a little bit of
Stella by Starlight, of course, a beautiful piano piece, originally written in 1945. But
Can
of
I
course,
just
I just want some
you
John
do that?
Williams. I want some Jurassic Park. Can we get a little Jurassic Park under that, please?
I was gonna go some Jurassic Park, but I was trying to remember the Howard Shore score to The Fly.
I knew it. I knew you were gonna go The Fly. Oh, I'm sorry, that was disgusting. He throws up the donut. It's beautiful.
I always like the arm wrestling.
I like the backseat drove that interaction. That
You
was good.
did, Mike.
I feel that in the same way that people take to Twitter to or Reddit or whatever to sometimes in a very vitriolic way profess their beliefs or their opinions, especially. Because there's a haptic response. I type it, I see it, and it solicits a response. There is a feeling of agency that goes with that. So I did something. If I typed in all caps, then somehow that demonstrated it had some impact. And I think that by and large, people, predominantly speaking, people want to have an impact, and they just don't know how to go about it, and so they pick fights on the internet. And you should do this is me somehow putting myself above you into a elevated position, so I feel better about myself.
You think it's a superiority thing?
That feels like 2 different.
Probably an
That's
insecurity thing.
Always
2 different ideas there.
Always
though.
insecurity. Go.
Because you're basically saying, I want control. I want some dominion over life itself, but also I want to feel above somebody else. Those feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be both. Those don't automatically go hand in hand. I suspect both are possibly true, and maybe in some people simultaneously true, but you kind of started on one point, it felt like, and then you ended on a different point.
Do you know me?
I want to
It's
throw
kind
in.
of
I
like
want
you
to
and
throw
Troy
in.
Baker.
I really want to know.
I want
Mike
to throw in
Douglas.
my thing. Well, because we all of us, right, have lots of interactions online with strangers every day, right? And I think one thing I've definitely trained myself to do is to assume a lack of impulse control in a lot of cases, and kind of a directness where people don't necessarily always know how rude they're being, I guess, and I kind of try and give
dropping
people
the flag on
doubt.
that. Go ahead.
Just kind of like letting that kind of always read. I try and read things with the best intent. Like, I assume if someone is offering help, maybe they're just offering help. It kind of goes back to what Austin's saying of like, people don't necessarily know all the social niceties of like, this is a bit rude or you're overstepping. I try and I don't always achieve it. Like, don't get me wrong, I get pissed off at stuff all the time online, but like generally I try and assume that that's where it's coming from. It's probably coming from that. And if it's not, what was lost by making that assumption, right?
Again, I find that a far more gracious viewpoint than I think that I have. I'm finding my viewpoint to be a little bit more cynical and skeptical than I really want it to be. So I appreciate you pointing that out. You're absolutely true. I think that some people are like, that's not at all how I meant it. Oh my God. I was just saying, hey, I went to UCLA or Berkeley School of Music, and I majored in audio engineering. I just want to let you know, if you didn't know this,
Mike's
boosting
audio
it up-
sucks.
Your audio sucks. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Maybe you're someone who feels that that's a helpful thing to say, and maybe you're not as adept at communication to moderate the tone you're using. So
English second language is definitely a thing. People can be accidentally too blunt in text
There's
communication if they
that.
don't
But
speak
even that, like, colloquially, I dated a girl whose family was from Chicago, and the way that they were a Greek family from
that
Chicago.
English is a second language. Oh, Greek. Okay, I was going to say like Chicago.
They were
speak
from
English in
Chicago.
right?
But like people I come from the South.
Pizzas, they're like weird.
Everybody in Texas, I think that the English are very similar in this respect too. It's like they'll absolutely will kill you with kindness. You know, in the South, "bless your heart" is not a good thing to say to somebody. "Bless your heart" means he's so stupid.
Really?
So, oh, bless your heart.
Alana's remembering every
I have
single time
heard
someone
that.
said that.
Yeah. He just tripped over his own feet. Bless his heart. But I think that the dating her, I would listen to the way that she talked to her sisters and she talked to her mom, and I was like, are you guys okay? Like you look. She's like, what are you talking about? This is the way that we talk. And so I think that there's some people, I forget that not all people communicate the way that I'm trying to communicate, Mike. Exactly your point. So I think that when people are trying to backseat, guide you or tell you, hey, your audio sucks, you should do this. You're right. It stands to reason that it's just as plausible that they're truly trying to be helpful. They're watching the show. Sure. They get us.
Nobody's backseating us, for the record. They said
Really?
Austin's quiet, but I don't feel like that's backseating. That to me feels like just an observation.
Right.
Someone just observing.
Like as a
something.
person, he's quiet, or his audio level?
Yeah, Austin doesn't talk enough. Is my one complaint about Play Watch Listen. Is just Austin
You don't
barely
watch the
gets a
show.
word. in.
From your mouth to all of my childhood teachers' ears.
What were you like as a kid, Austin?
This no
It's
beer.
Exactly the same. Just a smaller keyboard.
I did have a smaller keyboard, actually. I wrote everything. I wrote everything on a little 44 key until not that long ago, until it broke, and I finally was like, okay, I guess I got to get a real piano. But
It's the same way with shoes, by the way.
Really little shoes?
No, just like I guess they broke. I
half
should probably
my size.
buy. Yeah.
I want my shoes to look like Tom Hanks's from Castaway, on the island for several years, just hewn together
An
from palm
interesting aesthetic
fronds.
choice, but I respect it. It's like the toilet.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah.
broken again.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What? Update.
It's not in good. It's not a good
News
shape.
story, please. What
Our
happened?
man on
No,
the street,
I,
Austin Wintry, now bringing us Toilet Gate 2021.
Very good.
It's really just a continuation of Toilet Gate 2020 and 2019.
So did you re-break it? Did you have a
No, it's
particularly
just
aggressive
old.
journey or? Okay.
No, it's just, this was a commercial space for a long time before I came in, and I inherited faulty hardware.
Either that
your
or you have
question, Alana.
you have the urine of the xenophobe, and you're able to not xenophobe, xenomorph.
Xenomorph?
Also,
I would
yes.
watch that movie. The urine.
I can picture
It would win
these
3
guys
Oscars,
down
right?
at the border, like, stay out of my country, and
the
you're
award
pissing
for
acid for some
screenplay
reason.
goes to urine of the xenophobe. It's touching. It's
I
a really
can see
heartwarming
Ridley
film.
Scott
He learns-
xenomorph.
All right, I'm going to
Fantastic.
intro the show here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Play, Watch, Listen. My name's Alana Pierce. That is Austin Wintry. That is Troy Baker. That is Mike Bithell. And we all work in the video game industry. I really should have prepared this question ahead of time, but I didn't. Did any of you watch Mortal Kombat?
No, I haven't. I want to really badly. Okay,
It's fine, Troy. Nobody has seen it, which is sort of what I expected.
is that true?
Apparently,
No.
I have. Listen, all I'm going to say
No.
is just a shout out to Sub-Zero. That's all I'm going to say.
You're the only one that's seen it.
Spoiler.
He's played by an actor I really enjoy. And
He's
have you been
fantastic.
watching Warrior? Have you
Daniel
watched
Pacino?
Warrior?
No.
Warrior is amazing. You have to watch Warrior. If it had come out 10 years ago, it would be like up there with The Sopranos. It's awesome.
Warrior is
But
great.
Sub-Zero's one of the guys. One of the main
He's
guys.
really, really good. He's in the
Warrior's Way is not.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know what that is.
Did you ever see that movie?
No.
I did. My God.
How about the Warriors?
No.
Seen that?
Warriors.
What was I going to ask?
not the
Did
same.
anyone end up seeing Godzilla vs. Kong?
No.
I've
I
not seen
watched
that one
it.
yet either. What's it like?
It's
Fun.
very silly.
What's your stance on like the movies preceding it? Like, where are you coming at it from in terms of like, do you like the franchise? Do you not like the franchise? Like,
I mean, it's kind of all over the place. It really feels like each one of them is kind of a soft reboot. This one is the least in that category because it seems to have sort of knowingly built on Skull Island and King of the Monsters more conscientious. Like, it's more aware of the prior movies than the other ones, which all feel like they've made. I know this isn't accurate and it's an unfair characterization, but they always felt like they made the film and then they were looking at a 97% finished cut and went, we should really find a way to kind of connect this to the other films somehow. Like it doesn't feel. It's so different. We're very spoiled by the MCU having this surprising amount of aerial view of everything.
Massive plan.
And yeah, it's always shocking when you think about just how far ahead they must be working relative to their release schedule. And this doesn't feel like that. And yet it kind of wants to play in that sandbox a little, it kind of feels. But as a pure popcorn experience, it's very pretty colors and loud noises. That's pretty much what you're signing up for.
The colors were great. Underrated. It was like very neon Tokyo vibes. That was cool.
I feel like... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the film doesn't make sense. Like, for some reason, in the middle of the earth, there's a sun.
But see, this is my...
There's a lot of light for the core of the earth.
Doesn't that come with the territory with those movies? Like, you don't go to those movies for, like, scientific...
I feel like
Speak
as I
for
get
yourself.
older, I'm moving into this like pretentious phase where I'm like I'm
moving into.
How about settling into? Settling into, is that a little bit more appropriate?
Making peace with.
Oh my God, I'm pretentious.
Mike laughed. You went.
No, I don't necessarily want to be this way. There's this great study. There's a doctor from, I don't know, some smart school, and he talked about how when we're from our youth until about our 40s, we have this fluid intelligence that is able to construct more abstractly, and that's where our imagination comes from. And then as we get older, there's a real steep drop off at 40. Sharp Straflof at the flag and got a good do the flats. That moves more into a crystalline intelligence, which is more about logical, linear thinking. You're able to tell stories better. And you're a little bit more reminiscent. This is why grandparents love to tell stories when they're growing up. So I guess once I heard that, either I'm just relating to that or whatever. But I look at a movie. First of all, if there's anything more than an hour right now, that's a luxury. That's what planes were for me. It's like, I got 10.5 hours. Let's go. There's not a movie that I watched the Assassin's Creed movie.
That and usually movies is where I would watch these kinds of film, like the movies that if I didn't go see them in the theater, I wasn't gonna. There's a million other things I would rather pull up on Netflix. So in the before times where it was on planes pretty constantly, this was the catch up. This was the I never saw the latest Transformers, but now I'm literally stuck in a chair. So now is the time to watch that film.
And I would want to go to the actual movie theater with my friends and go sit and watch something that is spectacle. But for some reason, viewing it on the same screen, like we're still going through West Wing right now, season 3, it's still just as good.
No, it's good for them.
The first episode of season 3, which is, you can tell what they did was like, let's pause, because it aired October 3rd, 2001. And so you could tell they shot it out of sequence, and they were like, we're going to do a bottle episode, but they never reference 9/11, but they talk around it, and it's fucking beautiful. But I go to that, and it's like, let's watch CG monsters eat each other. And I'm like, I want to enjoy that. And I'm not disparaging that at all. I don't think it's stupid. I was the kid that grew up with the OG. Right. So I remember the original Mothra movies, and it was fun, and there's a bit of nostalgia, but that's not that. It's darker and grittier and more realistic and everything. I'm like, no, I would just rather. I watched War Games last night. I was falling asleep. I love the shit out of that movie, but I don't want a remake of War Games. You know what I mean? I want to watch War Games. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Remakes are a very interesting one that I generally don't want remakes of most things unless the tech means that I can't experience them anymore for whatever reason.
Final Fantasy? Did you want?
I still play Final Fantasy 9.
Are we talking movies or games?
Is there a delineation?
I feel like I generally would prefer to just continue to experience the thing than to have the thing be remade. Just make something new instead.
I generally agree. I do think that there's. I just wanted to differentiate that since you brought up Final Fantasy, because that's such a rare example of a remake. Like, how often are remakes just top to bottom total reconstructions?
Oh yeah,
Final Fantasy VII is kind of the only one I can think of.
It's
whereas movie
literally
remakes
also
are
kind of a different storyline. So they're doing like a whole other thing with that, and which I think is actually very cool because of the unique approach. But like,
But does that mean they should have called it something different?
Final Fantasy VII.
No, because I think probably
Hey,
part
they
of
did that with Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, they
exactly.
Kingdom Hearts.
Riri, Dream Drop Distance
Yeah.
4.2.1 or whatever. No, I think that the name of the Final Fantasy remake, because I don't feel like remakes are often called on the box remake. Like I don't feel like
It's
I
very
see
clinical.
that
Really?
super often. And then
No, you're right. Often they don't call attention to it, whereas Final Fantasy does, but that's because it's narratively dealing with the idea of remaking.
Yes, so I think that them calling it that is actually when you realized why they actually called it that is a cool moment. So I think I like that being the title. Whereas I feel like if you look, usually like even remasters, I don't know that they often say remaster. Like they'll go with like Darksiders does the War Mastered. They'll like go with some like stupid terrible word
Or
that
the
doesn't
something
make
edition,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
Legendary edition.
Why would that
So
be,
ready.
Mike? Why do they not often call things remake or remaster?
I guess my guess, I don't know the answer to that, but I would assume it's a marketing thing. Like, if you what's more exciting, this game diabolical best ever edition, or this game just a remake? Like, it doesn't remake sounds like a rehash or a rerun. It's kind of a boring thing. That would be my guess. I wouldn't call something a remake. I'd always give it a different,
It seems negative. Someone in chat just mentioned Resident Evil 2, but that is actually just called Resident Evil 2. They didn't call it Resident Evil 2 Remake. That's what we call it, but the official title of that game is not remake.
Well, often you don't need to either, right? If enough time's passed, no one, that Spyro game, like, it was Spyro. It's just Spyro. It's not, it doesn't need necessarily whereas as we're getting to this stage now where, and this has come up a lot on social media, where like remakes are getting closer to the original game's release. Like it feels like maybe that delineation is going to become more important. Like it's
like the Spider-Man franchise where they reboot it while the body's still warm on the previous one.
Yeah, I mean, God of War in 2018 is still called God of War. It's the same title, and that's not even a remake.
I find that
we
confusing.
Figure it out.
It's like Modern Warfare did the same thing, and that's not even attempting to. They just call it they just use the name.
Well, that's market research. That's if your game has a number in the title, then a large portion of your audience goes, "Well, I've not played the last 70 of these." I had the same thing. I played Mortal Kombat 11 this weekend. It was the first Mortal Kombat I'd ever played, and there was a part of me that was like, "Wow, I'm going to go into this missing 1 to 10 here."
Wait, what? It was your first Mortal Kombat you've ever played?
Yeah.
Wait,
You
really?
didn't want to
I didn't hear
read
that part.
I never played any more. My mates were all Tekken, so I wasn't. It was the kind of game I played around mates' houses.
You. Did you also play Virtua Fighter 2? Were you?
Look,
come on, I love you.
I was all about Soul Calibur and Marvel vs. Combat,
Capcom.
Marvel vs. Capcom.
It's contagious. No, there were definitely for me growing up, the Tekken and the Virtua Fighter kids, you just didn't mess with them because they were like, it's the difference between someone who plays Call of Duty and someone who plays Rainbow Six or Ghost Recon. You're like, yo, you're on a whole other like. There's a mindset. There's a button masher, and there's someone who's like, no, I know. There's a difference between knowing like moves and
You mean
fatalities.
like the difference between Call of Duty and like Arma? Like the people who play Arma 3 still to this day. You just
it's like you're buying into a whole other level, the level of realism and everything else. You're really there. Ghost Recon to me was the one that was always like, no, like I've outfitted my gear to spec. Those were the Virtua Fighters and the Tekken
I loved
kids.
that game so much. Ghost Recon LAN parties was like one of my definitive experiences.
Just LAN parties in general. Kids today, they don't know. They don't know the joy of just grabbing an Xbox and putting on, or a PC and putting under your arm.
We had PCs. Yeah, I remember my mom came in the room and was like, "It looks like you've set up an office."
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because it was like 4 card tables and we all had our backs into the center and the room was too small and the PCs, it made it 50,000 degrees in the room. So we're all sweating and looking just exasperated.
Like South Park episode 1 of
basically.
Look it up. We would actually play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in the studio where we recorded the game in all of the different rooms, and it was too much fun because you would hear people. And every single studio had like a big 55-inch or 65-inch TV, and so we're all playing there, all connected, and we're on comms together, not playing on the comms that came with Xbox. It was dope. That way we could actually team up and
That's
be like,
next level.
He's over there.
IGN
We
was like
worked
that a
out
lot.
in uni. We worked out how to run. We worked out that the university's like internal LAN had no security on it, so we were playing. So we were playing Halo LAN over the internal network of our university. So you could play people like the other side of campus. Of course, there was no chat, so you had to like call them on your phone and kind of sync up. But you could run a LAN party like with people who were like 3 buildings over. It was amazing.
I guarantee
we were really,
you
I
that's
was really
not
cool in
possible.
uni. I don't know if that's coming across. I was one of the cool kids at uni.
Yeah. Still are, yeah.
Dated a
Yeah,
lot.
still are. Yeah.
We figured out how to get, I don't know who actually did it, but I imagine it was like one of the grade 12 kids figured out how to get Counter-Strike on every PC at my high school. And they didn't, the teachers couldn't figure out how to get it off. So I don't know how they did that, but it meant that we could play Counter-Strike during lunch breaks. It's just someone figured out how to get it on every single one, and they didn't know how to remove it. It was absolutely
God's
wonderful.
work.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. I think they figured it out over time. But
This was before your precious TikTok and your. We
and your
played
Godzilla
games,
versus
damn
Kong.
it. Oh my
Mike,
God.
you had a thread that I thought was very interesting about Mortal Kombat.
Well, a lot of Mortal Kombat fans thought it was rubbish and stupid and shouldn't have been allowed.
Oh,
I
that's
can't
a
believe you
good
haven't played
point.
1,
Never
2, or
mind.
3. Wait, what
That's
was
okay.
what
No,
was
I
the
can talk
flag?
about it. It was fine. I
I missed
posted
it,
up-
so yeah.
so like there's definitely like a snobbishness in video game talk, especially around writing. Like we definitely only
What?
talk about like I think what there's definitely like a snobbishness when we talk about video game writing. There's definitely like the same 3 AAA games we always talk about and the same like indie stuff. And it was just a weird experience playing Mortal Kombat 11. It was genuinely my first Mortal Kombat. I knew like that there was like a Scorpion guy and like a Sub-Zero and like a Raiden and like they were in a tournament. That was literally all I knew about the franchise. I'd never even seen the movies.
Sub-Zero
Yeah, it
is
was
the
a
best.
Sub- a
That's like
Sub-Zero
that's
man.
like
I knew like
that's like
that
the Facebook.
stuff. Like literally that was all I knew. And I went into
And we've
Mortal
lost
Kombat
Troy.
11 and he's lost Troy. That's fine. Genuinely, like that story just grabbed me and like pulled me through it like a Marvel movie. It reminded me there's a YouTuber called
I go hard,
Beats
son.
not my own game. But like
Aren't you in
genuinely
Mortal
like
Kombat,
how
Troy?
well
Yes,
he's
I'm
in Mortal Kombat 11, which is the funniest thing because I was sat there playing it and your character that you play in Mortal Kombat 11 in the single player campaign, you play 2.
Yeah.
You're the cowboy. Who else are you?
The cowboy. I'm Aaron Black and I'm Shinnok.
Of course.
Oh, I didn't catch that. So I caught you on the count because you say the first line. You say like one, like you grunt or something. Like your character's first appearance is like a little like. Ugh. And I was like, I turned to Kerry while I was playing. I was like,
God
"That's
damn it.
fucking Troy.
Just
That's
from the
fucking
crowd.
Troy. I'm enjoying this story, and Troy has shown up to completely break it for me."
There I was having a good time, and,
Oh, that's amazing.
and a
Fucking Troy
wild
Baker
Troy
walks in
Baker
the room.
appears. Well,
Yeah. But no, I was just impressed by how much it brought me into it. There's a YouTuber called Patrick Willems I like who did a video where he took his parents who'd never seen like a Marvel movie to see Avengers Endgame. And the weird thing about it was they kind of got it. Like it works as a movie if you don't know all the stuff.
Wow.
And I had the same thing with Mortal Kombat where I was like, I get this. Like I know these characters, I know these, and that's hard. Like and for me, that's the stuff that I'm really impressed by because that's the nuts and bolts storytelling in like big franchise stuff. That's not as easy as it looks. That's really challenging to kind of bring an ensemble cast in with like a time travel plot and a this and a that and get me through it. That was impressive. So
Not only
I had a good time with it.
not only that, but also to me with Mortal Kombat, the thing that impresses me is the amount of like piss taking that was done from Ed Boon before this was Mortal Kombat, the pillar of games. It was just a very successful, very controversial, stand-up arcade that they were just trying to keep on the floors of the arcade because all of the fundamentalist Christians were trying to get them pulled because of the amount of violence that they had on it. And so like all of the toasty and everything else that was in that were just like, there's always been this element of camp to it, which to me has helped without it being cheesy and hokey. But the ability to go from 1993 to 2021.
Oh my.
I was born in 93.
Were you really?
I've done that. That's my whole life.
My God.
You basically are Mortal Kombat.
You are Mortal Kombat.
As a person.
And to be able to
I can't tell you apart from Harrison Ford or any Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. Which one were you? 6? But to go, you drop off after 3 with no more stand-up arcades. You go console only. And then being able to reiterate and basically not just reskin the same game, but it's the same mechanics. And you still are fresh. You still are innovative. You still, and you also have now you're no longer unfettered. You're now encumbered with lore. And you're like, fuck, we just wrote this thing about Outworld that we were just trying to get the fucking thing. And now people are going to come back to us. That's why like D&D and Wizards of the Coast, what they've been able to do, it's like, how in the world do you take 40 years of lore, Star Wars?
I was going to say Star Trek is perpetually challenged by this problem of like, how do we navigate the endless amount of sort of show Bible we have, especially knowing that our fan base is really into those specifics. And yeah, exactly.
And waiting for, there's a funny scene in Galaxy Quest where, oh God, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name. Justin, not Justin Bartha, but Justin Long.
Oh yeah.
Justin Long's character is like, did it bother you when? And finally Tim Allen was like, it was just a starship. That's actually a quote from William Shatner, where someone gives this long diatribe. He's like, I'm curious why you had the dilithium crystals in this, but obviously you switched to this and the schematics.
I always love that they ask the actors the stuff for the writers.
Yeah, and Shatner goes, guys, it was a television show.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite was the Family Guy episode where they go to ask the Next Generation cast, and it's like
a dry sponge is a happy sponge.
Yeah, I have a rash on my leg, and I'm curious what's causing it.
Do you take hot showers?
Hot showers.
Yes.
So damn funny.
Dry skin.
So good. Yeah, I actually, funny enough, I played the originals, 1, 2, and 3 back in the day, and then never touched any Mortal Kombat again until 11. And had a kind of similar experience, Mike, where I dropped right in and was like, this is very soap opera, but in a way that it knows what it is.
In the truest sense of soap opera,
it's
too.
quite fun. I enjoyed.
I think there's not enough respect for that kind of writing, and that kind of writing is a lot of the video game industry, right? Like pulpy, gets you through the process, makes sense, and it can be done well and it can be done badly, but I think often we're always distracted with the glittering light of like, oh, this game has, the most photoreal character ever, so therefore that one's got a great story, or this game is the most pretentious hipster indie game ever, and I speak as a pretentious hipster indie game developer.
Hipster
indie. We go to that one, and I think actually the 99% of the games industry is the stuff in between. It's like I know I've met a couple of people who write for EastEnders, which is one of the biggest soap operas in the UK, and the amount of crap they get from other writers for writing soap operas, but they have to write like each of them. I don't think it's a very big writing team. I think it's like between 5 and 10 people. They have to write like half an hour of good character drama every week, and maintain a standard which has this massive audience
with wall-to-wall dialogue.
Are those weekly episode drops? Because the
EastEnders is 4. I think it's down because of COVID, but historically it was like 4 nights a week.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, soap operas here, like Young and the Restless and all that, those are daily drops.
Yeah.
And I have a friend.
Writing. Anyone can write something
acting.
Kind of in
the actors. I have a friend who, a composer pal of mine who I knew when I was living in New York, and he had worked as like an intern or something for the music for the composer that was doing like the Bold and the Beautiful or whatever, or one of the daytime soap operas. And he went and visited the set. He said they had like this one building where most everything was happening. If I remember correctly, I might be wrong, but it was like they had shooting stages where they could shoot, and then just right around the corner were editing, and they had in-house, music production, and it was all obviously being done really fast and very heavily. Like the composer would basically create a library so they could just drag and drop stuff as fast as possible, and it wasn't really being scored bespoke. But he told me he visited the set and was watching them shoot, and he's like, the writing is obviously very intentionally campy and the acting hams it up, but he said those actors deserve so much respect. He said he was sitting there watching, and it was like, okay, we have 5 minutes to get this shot. because it's just the sheer volume of content that they have to, and it's like, you need to be worked up in a, you're crying. Ready? Okay. We shoot in 3 seconds. Like, these actors just having to shift emotional gear like crazy to be able to produce an hour-long episode a day. He was in such awe, and it made such an impression on me hearing him talk about it.
Well,
with no rehearsal, by the way.
Yeah. They also have to be
Have
really
you ever done a
careful
soap
about.
opera, Troy?
Sorry.
They
have to be really
Play, watch,
careful about
listen.
not being too emotional too frequently, because then if there's like a seasonal arc where something needs to be an emotional peak, but they've done that in the first episode, it just makes the character look crazy. So they also can't, like, they have to measure it on a long-term scale of like how much are we going to hold back throughout how far this is going to go. And I don't know how you do that for 11 Mortal Kombat games and have every character have a character arc, let alone a soap opera with an episode 5 nights a week.
I think it was either James Franco or Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I can't remember who said, I want to do a soap opera. And he left, and whoever it was like, that's one of the hardest jobs I've ever had to do. Because it's like, here's 8 pages. What? Tomorrow.
Yeah, after lunch. Yeah.
But Jesus. And you got to go. And it's long days. And they are, I'd like to get another take. Get the fuck out of here. Get another take. You better nail it in the one. It's hard work. Hard work.
So much respect for that.
No.
Yeah, and it fits, like you said about the pulpiness, like it fits there's a market for it. Like, there's people that's exactly what they're looking for from their narrative, and the idea of like something that's super introspective and plumbs the depths of your soul and rips your heart out and all that. It's like, no, I'm not really looking for that. I want to know, like, know some Sub-Zero melodrama, and that's perfectly okay with me.
Takes talent to write that stuff well, and to make you care about the silly man with the ice powers takes an enormous amount of talent. And I think, yeah, we all can miss that. So I just wanted to, that's what that thread was I was just impressed.
Why were people mad at you?
Man,
I think there's like more, I think there's in the fan base, there's like people who hate that game because they prefer another game, or like in the franchise, or they feel
that's
that
never
the
happened in
retcon
video
that was
game
done
fandom.
in 9 is wrong. Basically, like, it was mainly people who prefer a different Mortal Kombat game, and therefore I was wrong to enjoy the one I enjoyed. And weirdly,
not just
like,
wrong, but a sinner who should die.
Well, there was a weird conspiracy theory that I was trying to get a job at NetherRealm.
That's my
and it's
favorite.
Like,
I love that.
No.
I love that. It's like, I don't think I'm a good fit for that studio, but fair play.
Also,
like,
pretty
yeah,
happy with what I'm doing.
It's going okay so far. We'll see how it goes.
Going back to your original thing, as far as people offering audio advice, unsolicited, advice, do you feel that still applies when someone is making a comment like that about what you do? You think that they're just wanting to engage with Mike Bithell? Do you think that that there's a level of respect that is unfortunately not being expressed because of their inability to articulate their argument in a more
or they're
Depends
11,
on the person, right?
Like, or they're 11. Like, that's the thing I have to remind myself a lot, is anyone on Twitter can also be a child, right? And who among us, can you imagine if when we were kids we had a magic box that let us talk to like our idols or people who made stuff we liked? Can you imagine the crap we would have sent them?
God.
I like, if I could have, like, it's terrifying to me. I think, so I don't begrudge anyone a crappy message.
I do get messages like that sometimes. That my version of that is, like I've been doing this the DICE podcast, the Game Maker's Notebook, where I'll chat with composer colleagues, and so like I did one with Jack Wall, who's done a bunch of the Call of Duty games. He's done all the Black Ops games, and so invariably there'll be a comment somewhere that's like, Austin, you should do a Call of Duty, like as if it's just like, oh fuck, you know what?
I haven't thought of that.
You're right. Let me just
Get my agent
call
on the
them up.
phone.
Yeah, like, and there's always, it's always funny, and I always assume it's well intentioned, but there's always a funny kind of like, there's a lot to that sentence that you probably don't even realize. There's a whole process by which these companies choose these things, and sometimes I've been in the ring on these things, and then they went another way. Other times they had their heart set on, like, there's a whole dynamic that is just glossed over, and I never assume that it's meant rudely, but it is always
No, it's
funny how
enthusiastically
sometimes
in those cases.
But it sometimes does have a little ring of the like,
There's definitely like real abuse.
I'm a little.
people
I
get
wish
sent.
you. I
I
wish
want to
you
be
did.
clear on that. Like, there's definitely people who get actual abuse sent their way, and that's not what I'm talking about. Like, I'm talking about
Certainly.
the nonsense I get sent. Like, there's real crap, but
Oh, of
I'm
course. No,
fortunate
this
enough
isn't.
not to receive most of it.
Yeah. I think, Troy, I imagine you get it too, but I often get people be like, come to a convention in this country. And I'm like, okay, how do I organize that? They're like, when are you coming here? Do you budget? How are we going to make this happen? I'd love to.
There have been some, like, I really respect, I respect people that have the, I've been on both sides of that commerce. I have been in front of those that I venerate as idols and go, hey man, I just want to let you know what your work has meant to me, or hey, I would love to work with you one day. I've been that. So anybody that comes to me that way, I have a level of respect for them. I also understand, as you kind of were expressing, that that's not how it works, and it would be great. So I was like, hey, why have you never? Do you not like our country? Do you not like our city because you've never been here? I'm like, no one's ever invited me, but typically, if it's a cool spot, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
My last flight that I took in the before times, I was on my way to Kuwait because I'd never been, and I want to go, and I want to see this world. To me, it is borderline blasphemous that we have looked in trillions of miles in every direction, and we have never found a place like this. Get on a plane, get in a car, and go see it. Walk. Most people don't leave their own city. You should have a passport. We're rounding the corner to where the world is going to open up again. Be ready. Go experience other cultures. Go experience, be in a place where nobody speaks your language, and see how you adapt. So if
See
somebody
all of the
invites
Earth
me,
realm, and then if you get invited to the Nether realm
yes,
or any of the other realms, you should
Outworld.
also go see the Sub-Zero Man.
Outworld
Yeah.
Go see.
I believe
Sub-Zero.
his name is Silly Iceman.
with the you silly ice man with silly blue man with the ice powers. Rewind the tape. What do we
Yeah,
call
that might
him?
be what
That
he
works
said.
for me.
Yeah. God, he's
Rick
good,
Steve
though.
asking about
He's
that
really
silly
good
ice
in
man
that
with the blue
movie.
powers.
No, I'm with you, Troy. I think generally, like, my stance on conventions, and that one people are always really kind about. I've never had anyone be rude to me about that. Is I will go to literally any of them. I just have to be able to get the time off work and the opportunity to go. But I'm never going to say no to going to a new city. I'm going to be like, hell
Yeah,
yeah, I'll
dude.
do that. Of course I will.
There have been some cities
Same.
I've gone to. I'm like, I can now officially and with an informed opinion say this city sucks. I've been there, and you know it sucks, and you're trying desperately to get out of it. But
That reminds me of a time when I was at a convention in the north of England, and then I went down into London on my way back home, and I stopped by some friends' office, and they said, "Where were you?" And I said, "Oh, I was just in Middlesbrough." And every one of them looked at me and goes, "Why?"
yeah,
And
Shithole
so
town.
disparagingly. And I was like, it was quite nice. It was, it was quiet and sort of a factory. It kind of reminded me of being in like, the outer skirts of Pittsburgh or something, where it feels like this was probably a big factory area at one time, and now it's kind of like the shell of that.
What was it?
And-
Manchester was the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. Is that, or is it Birmingham? Birmingham is where it kind of like.
I think both claim it. To be honest, Manchester
us.
definitely has that. I mean,
They're the
Manchester
Ray's
definitely has
Pizza
the old
of
worker
industrial
bee thing
revolutions.
and-
Yeah.
The worker bee thing?
Yeah, have you never
Oh,
seen
if
the
you come to
bee?
Manchester, everything's got a bee on it.
Yeah, dude.
It's
I've
a
got
whole
my
thing.
shirt with the bee. When there was the big
bee
boom
power
in
thing,
Manchester, I wore my bee in solidarity.
I've never gone
I
to
have
Manchester.
one part
You
of
should
the
come to Manchester,
UK.
It's lovely. I'll show you around.
I
You'll
love
it.
Manchester. I love that hall that you guys have in the middle of the city is just one of my favorite theaters to play in the world. It's beautiful. But I have one country left, one part of the UK left that I haven't been to, and I've yet to be in Wales. So hopefully I get to tick that box soon.
Have you done
I'm a Welsh
both
boy.
North
Are you
Ireland
Welsh?
and Ireland?
I'm half Welsh.
I
half
didn't know
Welsh.
that.
Sorry, what was that, Austin? We were also shocked by the second revelation of this episode of Play Watch Listen. 1, Mike's never played Mortal Kombat. 2, Mike's partly Welsh.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of lore in this episode, I think. We're building.
Well, I
up
was
the,
curious.
A lot of stuff is going to pay off a couple episodes
Yeah.
from now. It's good.
I have a question
Planting the seeds.
about the Welsh. Go ahead. At Austin. Do you
Well,
have
I
the
was
floor?
just I was teasing. I was exploring the edges of your claim about the UK, and I was curious if that is inclusive of the entirety of Ireland? Like, are you a Northern Ireland and, Ireland?
I don't know if you're
Ireland.
aware, but that's a slightly, that's a contentious issue.
It's a very
for a lot of
contentious
people.
statement, what you just said.
There's been a bit of like,
if he, obviously,
conversation about that, yeah.
no, yes, of course. But my point is, if you say there's only one country that I've not been to in the UK,
Yes.
I was curious to explore the nuance of the claim.
So the United Kingdom would be England,
I'm
Scotland.
aware. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So yeah, the only one that I haven't been to is Wales. I have a question for a Welshman.
Come be Biff. It's the only Welsh I know.
You speak. Is it inappropriate? Like I remember.
Brilliant. I love whatever
If your roommate walks into your room and you're masturbating, for them to say.
But specifically from a
You do
Welsh
you.
Come be
perspective.
Biff.
My thing, the question was, I used to always say, "Don't Welsh on a bet,"
Yeah.
and I didn't realize, but it's Welch on a bet. But I looked up.
So you invented a slur.
Yeah. So I said that to Traveler, and he looked at me as like, Welch? And I was like, hey, Daddy needs to look something up real quick. And I was like, what is the etymology of this phrase? And there's conflicting things where it meant this, but it was loosely tied
Traveler
to
calling you out, like, should you be saying
all
that?
the
Like,
times,
actually, Father, what
Yeah.
do you mean? You've misplaced the word.
it's a bit offensive, Dad. I was like, Jesus, my son is woke.
PC babies.
I'm trying to figure out. Do you know if that is
A lot of South Park in this episode.
Yeah.
because I don't want to be in Wales and say it's like, hey, don't welch on a bet, and they're like,
So what's the...
I've
what does it
never-
mean,
I've
Troy?
never
I've never
heard-
heard the phrase.
what's that?
What does it mean? I've never heard it.
To not welch on a bet, where if you make a bet or if you and you lose, you better pay that bet. Don't welch on a bet. It's someone that make good
Right.
on your promises.
Okay.
So it's in the same way as like I don't want to say I got gypped. You don't want to just like it's not.
I don't know what that means either. Don't
So
think
it's-
about
it's-
that stuff.
But no, I don't think Welsh has that. I don't think Welsh has that origin. I don't think it's
Right.
a Welsh. There's definitely ones like that, like going Dutch, or like there's lots of in Europe especially. Like basically every country has a bunch of negative terms
About
which
each
they
other.
assigned other European countries.
The
And it
French
varies.
are
As you go around
cowards.
Europe, they move around.
So
That's the brilliant thing, is based on history, every European country has a different set of sayings which reflect their individual historical relationship to all the other countries
To
around
their
them.
neighbors.
It's fascinating.
That's
It's like
beautiful.
watching Eurovision. Eurovision is amazing because all the voting in Eurovision is entirely politically motivated.
100%.
Culturally
And
fascinating.
Australia's in there for some reason. We'll take it.
You can't.
I looked up the definition of Welsh as like a word, and according to Oxford, it's fail to honour. Welsh is a verb, offensive, meaning fail to honour.
Oh, so that is a
So
usage
Troy didn't
that
have it
Troy
wrong.
didn't invent.
Yeah.
So Troy didn't just Oh wow, that's okay. I've never heard that version.
So Troy
Fair
wasn't
enough.
making an innocent mistake. He is just an asshole.
Or he invented the definition. He's that
Yes, it's actually
influential.
yeah, it's like contributor
Troy Baker.
T. Baker. Yeah,
He edited the Oxford language.
Oxford,
3
Yeah.
a.m. He's on there.
Oxford
every
Online
submitting.
Dictionary is just as integral
I
as
have my
as the
latest
integrity of
round of
Wikipedia.
revisions. The Professor and the Madman is basically about you, and yeah, makes all sense now.
I would have thought that, like, in my head, you kept saying Welch, like, with a CH, and I kept thinking of vomit, but that is more akin to belch, which is then, I think,
Or retch.
still a burp. Yeah, I think I probably combined the two. Just made me think of Fable for whatever reason. Belch is...
We're really
Of course it does.
demonstrating
Yeah,
our collective mastery of language here today.
Look at us go. All inspired by Mortal Kombat. What a mastery. Let me tell you, though, that film, which I will
Fatality.
still not spoil for you, terribly written. Except for Kano, who has...
That's
heard
what
that.
I heard.
There's things that
Yeah.
don't make sense about what happens to...
Isn't
to
he an
Kano
Aussie,
writing.
by the way? Are
Yeah,
you,
and he does a
okay.
great job. Yeah, it's like a good Australian character that is voiced by an actual Aussie. I was like very, very happy with Kano. I'd be interested to see what you think of the lead, Troy. His performance was very distracting to me, but I've not seen a lot of... I don't spend much time on Twitter these days, so I don't know what the kids are saying about it.
Look, I love the 1994 movie. When did it come out? 94, 95? I love
Really?
that movie. I love it. It's great. I think Christopher Lambert is Raiden is like, who is the ancestral god of Chinese, funders? Like, yeah, you get Christopher Lambert. It's like, that to me is just like the goofiest thing you could possibly do. And then not have him come back and replace him with the other dude in part two. and they go to Outworld, and it's great. Johnny Cage is it's just awful, but I love it so much in the same way that I love War Games. But War Games is a far better movie.
So you were saying earlier that you think that as you got older, you stopped being interested in stuff that's silly. If I took that the right way, and I'm fully prepared to say that this is a seasonal thing. It's just where I'm at right now. It's what I'm reading, the things that I'm taking the time. Time is a precious commodity. And we're all given the same amount of time. We just choose to do different things with it. So I'm never going to say that I don't have enough time, because that's not true. I make different choices because I have the same amount of day that Mike is given. He's just 8 hours ahead of me. So I
sleep more probably.
Yeah,
Same.
I get 7 to 8 typically.
I'm an 8-9 guy. So
Are you?
You're definitely getting more hours than I am. Anyway, I'm sorry to derail.
No. But
that was important, Mike. That's the
sorry.
third fact of the show. Mike gets roughly 8 to 9 hours sleep a night.
This is
Never
all
played Mortal Kombat.
in 3 episodes. All of this is going to come together. It's gonna be like the
We
Sixth
swear, we've
Sense.
scripted this show years in
He
advance.
only sleeps 9 hours. That means it's gonna
I
be a big
really
revelation
hope.
for you.
Here's what I hope.
It's gonna wake up very well rested in Wales as an establishing shot.
But it says Wales that nobody can read it because it's in Welsh. People are like, well, what does that fuck say? It's like, gotta subtitle it. I'm hoping against hope that the people at OneUp listen to this pod, or someone sends it to them, and they go, listen, as a matter of moral principle, it is important that Mike appreciate and understand the foundational origins of this game, and they send him the stand-up arcade of 1, 2, and 3 all combined so that you could play it, because Ed Boon said that 3 was his favorite, and that was up to about probably when 10 came out. So he considered 3 the perfect iteration of Mortal Kombat. 2 built upon 1, 3 introduced the run button. It was perfect. That said, for giving such a glowing endorsement, I really, really, really want for OneUp to send me the stand-up arcade of 1, 2, and 3 as well, so that Mike and I can play online and people get to see me whoop his ass. Whoop his ass.
The cabinet can play online? Did you just say that?
Well,
It'll be like a PC in a box, right? It'll be like a modern computer, right?
yeah. Well, we would do a Zoom. I don't know. Dude, figure it out. Don't mire me down on logistics.
It's not us talking that
Austin's very
Austin's pointing
concerned
out.
about this.
It's the game itself. Like,
Yeah.
how would the games talk to each other? That's what he's asking.
We'll connect them.
You're basically just making sure the other one does. It's like when you're
You see,
watching.
Austin, it's like Journey, okay,
Yeah.
where you could play against and you think it's a computer, but really it's a person the whole time. You see?
This
mind
makes
blown.
sense.
There you go. I understand.
Ed Boon was the uncredited lead designer on Journey. Little known fact. So
It's
That
actually an
Yet again, the
anagram
game
for
developers-
Genova is actually an anagram for Ed Boon, just like Noob Saibot is
Exactly.
actually.
Voldemort.
I
There was
know
actually
too
a
much
part
about
in the
Mortal
movie
Kombat.
where some character, and you speak the man who knows a lot about Mortal Kombat, tell me if this is someone who's real. They make just this one offhand reference to someone called Eddie Tobias.
Yeah.
Is that an actual character?
It-
I know
no.
Ed and Tobias, but I kept being like, they said Eddie Tobias, and the people I was with did not understand my excitement about that at all. But is that someone who exists in that universe, or is that just based on their names?
That's just based on their names.
Okay, yeah, I was
Like-
very excited about it. Mentioned it like 3 times, and everyone else was like,
Like Noob Saibot
Right.
is Boone and Tobias, so that's where Noob Saibot came from.
"It's true."
I don't have my
Genius.
glasses with me. Please send me the one up.
I really love that this is like basically I have to title this episode something to do with Mortal Kombat, but we've virtually
But we
not
never watched
spoken
it.
about the film at all because I'm the only one who's seen it.
Mortal Kombat and the Welsh.
It's the ultimate clickbait title, yeah.
It is. I'm gonna have to be like Mortal Kombat bracket apologies,
But not the movie.
yeah, but definitely
Apologies
not
to
the
the
film.
Welsh.
Well, on that note, we are pretty much at an hour here.
60 in the can, baby.
Pretty
Woo!
close. Yeah. Thank you all for watching for 60 whole episodes. Some
Yeah,
of you,
man.
I guess, is some good ones, some terrible ones in there. It's fine. We're
There's
doing-
one
doing
guy
our
in
best.
prison that can't figure out how to change YouTube, and he's like, "This is all I have to watch."
This is it.
It's just stuck on
Can't
the
change
playlist.
YouTube. It just auto plays. Oh, I love it.
Forever. He's really getting into that Mike Bithell lore that he was really hoping they'd flesh out
He's
in
writing it
episode
down.
60.
The Mike Bithell wiki page is being updated with all
Doing
of this.
really
There's a
well at
whole-
San Quentin.
Oh, that's great.
Now that I think, is cruel and unusual, though. So I suspect it won't last long.
The warden comes in. Jesus Christ, guys! Have you just had this been looping the entire time? He's just drooling. Oh.
I was gonna say in the last couple of minutes, we can do a couple more minutes. If anyone has any questions at all, I can throw them to the gentleman. We'll see if we have any. Mostly
Austin's
just
too
saying-
loud.
Answering the first question.
I know. Really,
Austin's
I
too
would
loud.
only say maybe one of them is what we will get through. But so far, people saying thank you for the show. It's a lot of very positive feedback. Someone complained about the audio, and I said it wasn't my fault. Said there nothing
Was
to
I
do
supposed
about
to be recording? By the way, I didn't.
No, we're
That one
good,
never
homie.
gets old.
Never gets old.
Never
gets old.
Would have hit you through the screen, Austin. It's real bad.
Was
I
there at
can't
least
wait.
was there a moment where you thought maybe I was serious?
I
Yeah.
definitely thought you were
fraction
serious
of a
just
second?
then. 100% that whole time I was like, fuck, son of a fucking bitch, Austin Wintory. Not that it matters, you know? Sometimes we just have audio problems.
By the way, a friend of mine had the most amazing suggestion yesterday. Shout out to Jan from Tripod. We were talking, and I was telling him how if you ever go back and listen, when I send you my audio to edit, if you listen back, the moments where I'm listening to you guys talk is always the most uncomfortable, where you kind of hear all the and he was like, he goes, you need to do a cut where you eliminate whoever the main speaker is.
Noises.
So it's just the whole show is.
We
and
have,
I
a
was just
we have a subreddit of just ASMR play.
It's
watch
exactly
listen.
what I said. I was laughing so hard trying to picture how uncomfortable I was. I don't think I could make it through 60 seconds.
No, the best.
I couldn't
The
survive.
best super cut would be just a super cut of when we're about to interrupt somebody, and it's just.
My thing is because I'm across the Atlantic. There's always a half a second delay.
There
on
is
me, so I'm
anyway.
always interrupting. It's really annoying.
No,
It's
it
traveling at
is
the speed
across
of
the
light.
board.
Traveling at the speed of light.
Mhm. I think when we get to do this in person at some point, at some event one day, and we still interrupt each other, then we can't use that excuse anymore.
Well, it's going to be. I was thinking about this the first time.
We'll have Mike sit at the end of the stage all by himself, so
Really
that
far
there's a
away.
slight little.
because of the time difference. It'll work. I'm gonna probably the first time will be. I'll come to LA sometime. I imagine after lockdown lifts, so we'll probably do it then, right? That'll be the
We
first
can make that happen. We can
chance.
figure that out.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
We were all gonna
I
go
can sit
to
on the
we were all
sofa
gonna go to
behind Troy
Wales,
there.
but
Yeah,
whatever.
we were going to go to Wales, and Mike's not there, but we were going to go. We got a
Wait a
question
minute. I have. Okay, go ahead.
from Drummaster1498 that I thought was a good one. That I don't know if I've ever asked you guys this before. What's the favorite game you've ever worked on?
What?
That's like choosing your favorite kid.
Yeah.
Putting you on the spot.
To drown.
I don't think he was asking for that.
I
You
no.
share a favorite
it's-
experience working on something.
For me, I can get that one out of the way. It's impossible for me to say. It's more about what is my favorite thing about that experience rather than what is my favorite experience.
Sure.
Because if I can somehow elevate one thing above the rest, that to me somehow prioritizes it in a way to where the lesson that I learned here or the whatever this gave me is somehow better, as opposed to thinking about it linearly and laying it out and saying I learned something that was impactful and important from each experience, even if it was the bad. I love the Richard Burton quote, even if it's rubbish, be the best rubbish in it. So there's a lot of games that I've done that are not bad. Binary Domain, and is not a great game, but I learned a lot and I had a blast making that game. Being 2 months in Japan, Travis and Laura, and it was incredible. That was an incredible experience. So shitty game, awesome experience.
I think probably my answer is the most boring, which is I think Subsurface Circular is the best thing I've ever done.
That's
in my
interesting to me.
That's the one because I think it's the most true. It's the most kind of true to what I was trying to do. I guess that's it. It's not necessarily the best game, but it's definitely the one where I feel like I've executed.
Like the version in your
Exactly the game I
head
wanted to make.
resembles
Yeah.
the final most
And
closely.
was also
Yeah,
the
the rest of
shortest
them
dev
are
cycle
like
too,
maybe-
right?
Solitaire overtook it. So yeah, Subsurface
Really?
was 6 months. Solitaire was 4. So
That's
Solitaire
wild.
won.
Insane.
Yeah.
Austin?
My answer's kind of like Troy's, where I always remember things based on like how I grew, how I developed as a composer or as a person, like if that project exposed me to ideas that I hadn't before, and I'm just a better, more well-rounded person as a result of being part of it because of either the game itself or the people involved and just the conversations we would get into while working. Like a good example of that would be working on this VR title Luna with Robin Hunicke, because we would just have these really intense conversations that would go for
so
hours
rad.
and hours and hours. So
She's great.
like, you know, that kind, but I mean, obviously Journey fired on all cylinders in that way, because it took me to another level as a musician. Like it just pushed me harder. The demands of the game were such that I had to kind of catch up to the quality of the game they were making. And I think I came out of it better than I went into it. Like it was almost like paid training. But the game also, I remember when Genova first told me the pitch for what he wanted the game to be, I thought, I didn't realize I've been waiting my whole life for someone to make that game. And you're telling me I get to somehow be part of a thing like that. And it just was so surreal to me, even just on the premise of what they were trying to do before one line of code existed. Like the thing was non-existent. But just
was the elevator
promise.
pitch for Journey? What is the short one line?
It was two fundamental
but not
sort of points, which was we want to make a game that sort of explicitly goes through the stages of the hero's journey so that you can feel that the transformational aspects of it. Like it's called Journey as for obvious reasons, and you know, all the steps, like it was very okay, well, you know, here's the rejection of the call to adventure, et cetera, et cetera. And it was, so he really wanted to, because he said, this is such a universal story. I really want people to not just be told it, but to feel it, to walk through it, to so that they can feel that feeling of transcendence. But even more important than that, the second aspect was, I want to make a multiplayer experience where people actually bond and they don't look for ways to beat each other, be better than each other, fuck each other up, grief each other, blah, 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 blah. And he said, I want to see if there's a way to, the way he phrased it was, I wonder if it's possible to catalyze something resembling actual love in an online randomly match-made connection with a total stranger.
It just gave me
and
chills.
I remember I heard that, and I well, that's the thing. I remember saying that's the next stage of evolution, and I don't know how the hell you could hope to achieve that, but good on you. And then it's like, here we are, and people are, you know, within a month of it launching, people were writing things on forums like, you know, dear user 752, you changed my life, or whatever. And it was like, Jesus Christ, he and that game company collectively, of course,
and you.
It was very much a team effort.
Yeah.
Did that. So it's like, I've been lucky, worked on a lot of games that I love, but I can't deny that one, I'm a different human being. It's not just that I can't imagine my career if I hadn't worked on that game, because it altered the trajectory of my career fundamentally. But I think about life differently because of that game.
That's awesome. We'll take that.
I must bounce. I'm 10 minutes late.
Bouncing is required.
Bouncing required.
Thank you all for watching live. The episode will be re-audio mixed and published as usual on Friday. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.